Hello everybody and welcome back to another Overwatch League fan thoughts and analysis video. Today we are taking a look at the Vancouver Titans, the second to last of the expansion teams that I am going to be taking a look at here. This roster, of course, if you do not know, is made up almost entirely of the Contenders Season 2 2018 roster for RunAway, who are one of the most successful franchises in Overwatch history, pretty much. Have just been winning and winning and winning for years, finding really good players on the ladder. So this team is made up almost entirely of that roster, with a couple exceptions. I believe there's just one exception here on this roster, but we're going to start by taking a look at this team's DPS players, which I did watch a little bit of the Kongdu Panthera versus RunAway finals to kind of get an idea as to what kind of heroes people played and what kind of roster we expect to be the starting roster. So we're going to start with the two DPS players that I think will most likely start the most games, and that is Haxel first. He is a projectile hero mostly. I saw him play some Genji, some Pharah, and I saw him play some Doomfist, which I think was the main one that he played. It was Pharah and Doomfist mostly. I believe he's going to be a starter. He's a young guy. He's 18. He was impressive. He played pretty well. So I expect him to be on this team's starting lineup when the season begins. Obviously, you don't have to talk about chemistry with this team because they've played with each other in the past. They all know each other, so it's not really an issue in any way. So, yeah, I think Haxel will be a good high-level player in the league. Obviously, he's a young guy. He's 18. He couldn't have played in the first season of the Overwatch League. He was too young at the time, so now he's old enough to play. I expect him to be potentially one of the better projectile players in the league. Sorry if you can hear me moving the mic. I want to be a little bit closer. I think he'll be one of the best players on that projectile role in the league, because especially with the team around him, he knows the team around him. Next we have Stitch. Stitch is more of a hit scan player, played some Widowmaker, played some Soldier 76, so plays some McCree. He's also got Tracer under his belt. He switched a couple times with So Min Soo, who has a very diverse hero pool. I saw him play some Zarya. I saw him play some Pharah. So and I think he put some Brigitte as well. It's a very diverse hero pool for So Min Soo, which is a very, very useful thing to have. He's a young guy as well, only 18, so he couldn't have played in last season either. So you have two players in Haxel and So Min Soo who are young, and you have Stitch, who's older, but who is a starter on this team's roster. So I expect him and Haxel to be the two starters, with So Min Soo coming in whenever they need a Zarya or whatever they need out of him that maybe he does better than Stitch. But Haxel looks to me to be the consistent DPS player on the team. He's going to play pretty much every game, every map. That's what he is. The final DPS player on this roster is Hureg, who did play for the London Spitfire for a time during Season 1 of the Overwatch League, but didn't finish with them. He is also a pretty wide player, or has a pretty diverse hero pool. He's got some Tracer, some Doomfist, also some hit scan in there, so he's somewhat useful. I don't know how much he will play. I didn't see if he played a lot during the Contenders regular season, or even if he played during the the playoffs before the championship. But to my knowledge, from what I saw, and I went through every map, I didn't see him playing at all in the finals against Kongdu Panthera, unless I missed it, but I'm pretty sure I didn't see him play at all. So it's an interesting DPS roster, but at least one guy with that experience. But this team has played on the highest stage besides the Overwatch League. I expect they'll compete on a high level. I think these players will play really, really good. This is one of those teams that I'm really interested in seeing how they perform. I expect them to be pretty good because, they're the best team that Contenders has probably ever seen. Next we have the tanks. We have Janu on the D.Va. I expect him to do his thing in the Overwatch League that he did in Contenders. Be consistent, play well, compete. D.Va's super important. He's a guy that I expect to do well. He's paired with Bumper, who is another tank player who has a pretty diverse tank pool. So I really do expect this team to just perform well. It's kind of hard because I didn't watch enough RunAway, but you just have to understand how dominant RunAway has been. The Vancouver Titans team is literally just RunAway. They have all the coaches, all the ownership, all like the everything, right? If give you an idea, um, dating back to this is April of 2017. Okay, Overwatch Apex Season 2, RunAway got second place. In Apex Season 3, they finished in that 9 through 12 spot, which isn't great. Nexus Cup 2017, second. That's not a huge tournament, but it's decent. Apex Season 4, they got second. APAC Premier 2017, they got second. WEGL Overwatch Invitational, that's like not really a real competition, but they got first in that, and they got first in another one. Contenders 2018 Season 1, they finished in the semifinals, and then they won Contenders 2018 Season 2 and the NetEase Esports X tournament in the summer. Two major things there that they won. So they've won a lot of things. So this roster is now moving up into a higher level of play. The players have gotten older. They've had more time to play with each other. They know what they're doing. So Janu and Bumper here are going to have to be that consistent front line that most really good teams have, especially Korean teams. Tank play is a big part of the success of Korean teams. It's a big part of any team's success, but obviously Korean teams have done a really good job at that. I think that these two players, from everything I've seen and the fact that they are on this team, they're super successful, very, very good players, and I expect them to be a major part of this team's success. They have experience, of course, playing against some Overwatch League caliber players. They beat Kongdu Panthera, and Kongdu Panthera is pretty much just the Shanghai Dragons roster, right? So they beat everybody they played in Contender Season 2. They lost to Kongdu Panthera once, beat them once. Same goes for Kongdu Panthera, but you have a team that has beaten Overwatch League caliber players. So I'll be curious to see what they become now that they are on the Overwatch League stage. But move on to the supports. We'll start with Slime. Slime is, for all intents and purposes, he is this team's main healer. Of course, with the Ghost composition, that means he'd be playing mostly Lucio, while their backup, or not backup, their off-healer support player would be Twilight on that Moira, that Zenyatta. But Slime, a lot of Lucio, a lot of Mercy is what I expect out of him. Pretty good play from what I did see out of him. Wasn't a lot, but it was pretty good. This whole roster is a very good roster. Twilight also, I was impressed with his play. I'm a support player, so I like to watch supports. But he was one of those players I actually really enjoyed. I thought he played really well, so I think this support line is really, really good from the team. But they even brought in a little additional help. They brought in Rappel, who did not play for RunAway. He actually played for Element Mystic, who were eliminated by RunAway in the semifinals. And he is going to be a Zenyatta player. So my guess is they either wanted a backup or they prefer Rappel Zenyatta to Twilight Zenyatta. I'm going to assume they just wanted a backup player. They had room for another player, so they opted to go with Rappel. I don't really know exactly what the reason why they signed Rappel is. I'm not in that room figuring that stuff out, but I am sure there's a good reason for that. But that is this roster. Now, I think this is going to be one of the best teams in the league. just because they have so much talent, and they have so much success in the past. It's one team that has been super successful in the past, and it's the same squad, right? They were successful in contenders several times. They were successful in the NetEase tournament, which is, playing a bunch of teams from around the world. It might just be Asian teams. This team has a lot of really good talent on it. They know what they're doing. They have that chemistry, which is really important. You cannot sleep on the chemistry that this team has. It's super important. It's a big part of what this team will do to succeed, is the fact that they can rely on the fact that they've played with each other. This Vancouver Titans team, as little as I've talked about it, a lot of that comes to the fact that it's really late. I want to get this video up. As little I talked about each player's individual skill, a lot of that comes down to me not knowing the player's skill. But I know about RunAway, and I know about the success that RunAway has had for a very long time. RunAway has been successful for a very, very, very long time. To give you an idea of how successful RunAway has been, I'm going to pull up the RunAway team, and let's look at former players, alright, and see kind of where they have ended up. So they've the roster that they just had that all went to the Vancouver Titans. Sorry for bumping the mic there. That was an accident. Alright. They have had players come in and out. So they had, for example, Tizzy, who used to play for the London Spitfire and then went to, got released and went to XL2 Academy. Played for RunAway. He's the only other player that was on this roster that went immediately to the Overwatch League, but you have Kalios, who played for the Boston Uprising. I don't think any of these other players played in the Overwatch League, but there are players on here that did end up in the Overwatch League. I don't think there's a bunch right off the bat, but there are some. There's Koma, who is on the Shanghai Dragons now. He used to be with Kongdu Panthera. Now he's with the Shanghai Dragons. So there's a lot of talent that has come out of RunAway. And some of the players that were on RunAway most recently have been on RunAway for a long time. Haxel, Bumper, Stitch have been there for a really long time. They've been there since 2016. Right? So this team has been around the block. They've been around for a long time, and yeah, this is a team that knows what they're doing. I expect them to be one of the most dominant teams in this season's of Overwatch. I expect them to be very, very good. I expect them to be a top team. I'd be surprised if they were one of the bottom half of the league. I think they'll win the Pacific, very likely. Not guaranteed, of course. I think they have to compete, of course, with the LA Gladiators, who have that experience, and the Seoul Dynasty, who are a roster that I think is on the rise and is really, really looking great. But this is a team that I really believe in. I think they will be one of the best teams in the league, not even just in the Pacific. I think they will be a title contender as soon as the season begins. I think they are that good of a squad. That's really all you can say about this roster, is that you have to understand that RunAway have been so successful. They have been just one of the best teams. They've been consistent. They are a very good squad. Watch out for them if you are not prepared, because they will be one of the teams that will be talked about a lot throughout the season. But that is everything I have for you. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. Comment down below what you think about this Vancouver Titans roster. I'd love to hear your opinions on it, but that's all I have for you. Thank you for watching. I will see you all in the next video, and yeah, goodbye.